It's a job he's spent his whole life preparing for. One he could only inherit through the death of his mother.
To Princess Elizabeth, heiress presumptive to the throne, a son had been born.
It has been a long apprenticeship, and unlike the Queen, he takes on the duty at a time in his life when most people would retire.
I believe no one has ever been better prepared for the role of head of state than the new king. He's been heir to the throne for so long, but it's not just that. He's been very assiduous, hard-working heir to the throne.
I, Charles, Prince of Wales, will become your liege man of life and limb.
He does it for no other reason that he was born to do it. I mean, no one says, work 16 hours a day, sir. I mean, he does it because he wants to.
But you know, I think you're very sexy. Oh, no!
For the Prince of Wales, living in a less deferential age has had its challenges. But as heir, he has brought attention to some of the most pressing global issues.
Yep. The combination of pollution and overconsumption of finite natural resources.
The urgency, I think, is even greater to try and do something about those challenges. So I would ask how these people are going to face their grandchildren.
Speaking out about the environment for more than 50 years, gaining a reputation as one of the world's most respected and pioneering campaigners.
But sometimes you think that, do we really have to face catastrophes and chaos before we understand that real action needs to be taken? And the difficulty with all that is that by the time you try to take the action, it's already too late.
While some people might have found his interventions inconvenient to the running of their particular versions of business or thinking, actually, in the end, I think the world will look back at his career as an environmentalist and say that it was an incredibly important contribution at a critical time.
Through his Prince's Trust, he connected with millions of young people. His approach liberal and inclusive, especially when it came to race and religion.
He has given very important speeches about the contribution of Islam to world civilization, both in Britain and in the Middle East, in Al-Azhar University and in Saudi Arabia. And of course, within the Jewish community, it's been my privilege to see him both engage with the elderly in our old age homes, who instantly became his groupies.
Well-briefed, outspoken, yet unelected, did Charles, as heir, blur the lines between public service and political interference? His outspoken views on issues such as architecture and alternative medicine were at times controversial. His so-called Black Spider memos, written directly to government ministers, show a level of intervention not expected from a royal.
I think he enjoyed the controversy. I think on some occasions I compliment him on the controversy. I think he was right about architecture to an extent. I think he was right about the environment. Clearly he was ahead of his time. But the point is the way he did it. And what he would do is he would criticize people but couldn't stand being criticized himself. He would create controversy but didn't want to listen to people answering back. How am I feeling?
Yes,
older.
Around his 70th birthday, he set straight how he sees his future role. Charles, as king, now assumes a number of key roles that will demand strong leadership. He's head of state, defender of the faith, or as he'd rather, defender of faith more generally. He's also head of the armed forces, who will pledge to serve king and country.
He's had military service. He served in the Royal Navy. He was the captain of a ship. And he knows, therefore, what you have to do if you're the boss and you're making decisions. So he can look commanders in the eye, and he remembers what it is to look after soldiers, sailors and airmen. Now, as king, he will receive defence briefings all the time. He's an excellent figurehead for the armed forces.
There was a time when the thought of the Prince of Wales as king went against the public mood. A failed marriage, followed by tragedy, and Charles's popularity plummeted. It would be 8 years before he married Camilla Parker Bowles, the true love of his life. They have become a close working team. And on taking on her new role as Princess Consort, Camilla will support her husband, just as the Duke of Edinburgh supported the late Queen.
Camilla turned Charles from this morose, serious, unhappy man into someone who lightened up, who laughed again, after years of not really laughing very much.
Well, it's yours now.
And as a result, he became a much better Prince of Wales.
His sense of humour and desire to connect has softened his image in recent years, as we've seen him more as a family man, a committed husband, father and grandfather, who, like the rest of the country, missed his loved ones during the COVID-19 pandemic.
It's terribly sad, let alone one's friends. But, I mean, fortunately, you know, at least you can speak to them on telephones and occasionally do this sort of thing. But it isn't the same, is it? You really want to give people a hug every now and then.
3 resounding cheers for Her Majesty the Queen. Hip, hip!
The line of succession was secure as signs of transition became clear. Overseas tours on the Queen's behalf, leading the nation in moments of reflection. With the support of his family, he embarks on his new role. After decades of watching, learning, supporting, and developing a deep sense of service, he now takes his place as king.